All right, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers. This has been a very active team this offseason, of course, and there's some more rumors flying around, some speculation. But on this show right now, we're going to focus on the facts and the data. And when you break down the numbers, and we're starting to see some contract details leak in terms of a lot of the Steelers' key moves, the Pittsburgh front office has really done an incredible job. We'll get into that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that's Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, over the past few days, we're starting to see some of the contract details leak of all moves in the early part of free agency. And the latest big domino to drop in terms of that information involves the Steelers' new wide receiver who they traded for, DK Metcalf. Let's go into the top line numbers and then break down the data on the other side, explaining why this was a really impressive job by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's pull up the tweet here. This is courtesy of Spot Track. It kind of just breaks down the Steelers' extension of DK Metcalf. It's a 5-year, $150 million total value, $60 million fully guaranteed, $35 million in cash this year. Practicality for purposes, it's a 2-year, $60 million deal. We'll cover more on that later. That's very, very important. His cap hits in 2025, it's 11 million bucks, save Pittsburgh 7 million, and then it escalates there from 31, 32 and a half, 34 million, and 41 and a half million. All right, those numbers look pretty big, especially on the back end. But when you break down what the Steelers are trying to do here, and you can obviously see, look at the Steelers roster, they're trying to follow that model that the Philadelphia Eagles use, that the Cincinnati Bengals use of having two elite, two star power wide receivers, a 1A and a 1B, and allow that to carry your offensive passing attack instead of having a true number one and then supplemental options around them. And let's go ahead and look at our first graph here. We kind of analyzed A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the Eagles comp, the Jamar Higgins, I'm sorry, the Jamar Chase Higgins Cincinnati Bengals comp, and then compared that to the new DK Metcalf George Pickens. And when you look at the data on a receptions per $1 million in terms of cap hit basis, you can see the Steelers got an incredible bang for their buck. You can look at the Devontae Smith, AJ Brown numbers there on the far left. You can see the Higgins Chase numbers in the middle. They're about the same ballpark. And there on the far right, you can see the Pickens Metcalf. They're getting a lot more dollars. Now, a lot of people may say, well, Pickens is on a rookie deal. But the reality is, the way the Eagles have structured their contracts, they are so backloaded that for all intents and purposes, Devontae Smith is still essentially on a rookie deal, and Jamar Chase just got an extension. So his cap hit this year isn't quite as big as it probably should be. So when you look at these numbers here, the Steelers are getting an incredible amount of value on a receptions per $1 million basis. Let's go into our second chart here, talking about receiving yards per $1 million. Again, in cap hit, you can see on the left side there, Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, a little bit better than Higgins and Chase, but same rough ballpark, same order of magnitude. And there on the far right, you've got the Steelers, Pickens, Metcalf, so far above those two guys. This is what really can make the difference, right? It's not just the dollars you spend and the players you get, it's your efficiency and production versus those dollars. Anyone can sling a lot of money around and bring in halfway decent players, but you got to bring in players that can actually produce. And that's what the Steelers have done here. We know Pickens has the potential to produce. In fact, his number, these dollars here are based on a disappointing 2024 for Pickens. We're expecting a big boost. Same thing with DK Metcalf. He actually had a little bit of a down year in 2024. Working together, I'm actually expecting those numbers to spike, which will make these efficiency results look even better. A lot of people will maybe be concerned that the Steelers overpaid a little bit for Metcalf. When you actually look down and break down the data here in terms of what they are getting on a per cap hit basis, this was an incredible job by the Steelers front office. And again, it's a Super Bowl winning motto. The Eagles won a Super Bowl with this last year. They went to one a few years ago. The Bengals went to one a few years ago with this model as well. This is not a bad approach to take. And right now, the Steelers are doing it more efficiently than the top two teams at this. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this Steelers update. But first, Pittsburgh fans in the comment section below, now that you've seen the data, now that we kind of broke it down for you and some of the details have been released, how would you grade the Steelers acquisition of DK Metcalf? Do you feel great about it? Give it an A plus? Are you still kind of wait and see mode? Think it's a C? You absolutely hate it for whatever reason. If you think it's an F, if you do hate it, let us know. Anyway, put that down, your grade, and maybe your thoughts on the DK Metcalf deal in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you. What are your thoughts on everything Pittsburgh right now?
Yeah, I think when you look at the numbers, obviously they're doing a lot of good things right now. But I think even when you look at the prospective futures of what these duos allow, I like the one in Pittsburgh the most because they've got DK Metcalf locked up. Pickens eventually he'll get paid, but if he progresses, I think they're going to be, hitting their peaks at different times. At the end of Metcalf's deal, you expect this, if he signs another deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, that cap hit to go down because he's going to be older at that point. Let's see, in a few years from now, he's 27 now, probably be 30, 31, somewhere around that marker when he gets to get a new deal. Pickens, on the other hand, will be hitting the prime. So you can expect a lower cap hit from Metcalf. Then Pickens comes back with his higher cap hit. We're expecting him to be the player that we expect him to be, which is obviously possibly not true. But the thought is there that Pickens gets to his potential. He's able to be that guy, and then Metcalf is on the slight downturn, and they can essentially switch places in this graph right now where Pickens is doing a lot of heavy lifting as far as his cap number is very low, and then he's decent production where Metcalf's cap number is high and also has decent production. They'll flip places. So I think this is a good future play here for the Pittsburgh Steelers and everything they have going on. I like how it's set up. And then you got to think they also have the opportunity just to. I think this is a good pairing of guys. I think George Pickens and Metcalf complement each other very well. Obviously, these other guys do too. Smith and Brown just won a Super Bowl. I don't want to discount anything from them. And we all know Higgins and Chase, they've been, a good tandem for a long time. But quite frankly, they haven't really gotten too much done with that tandem yet. I think the Bengals have really underperformed there. So I think we're set up now. We're seeing a lot of efficiency. We're seeing a lot of dollars come in to Pittsburgh and be used very, very well. And that leads me to believe they're going to make a smart play at the quarterback position because at the end of the day, that is what is important. This is a team that needs a quarterback to, use these weapons. But we're seeing them set this thing up, have great efficient use of their dollars. And I'm expecting that because they're going to go grab whoever they want at quarterback and utilize what they've done here. So this is a signal to me. Pittsburgh, they're looking at the quarterback position. They have something they want, and they wouldn't have gone out and gotten a weapon like Metcalf, paired him, and made this contract work the way it was if they weren't confident that they could get the quarterback position nailed down.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about just sort of the staggering of the deal structure here. Because if you look at the two teams, the examples here, the Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles, you want to be what the Eagles are in terms of roster management. Howie Roseman's one of the better GMs, maybe the best GM in the entire National Football League. You don't want to follow the Bengals model. And even Bengals fans will tell you this, right? They kind of sat on their hands for a very long time, and they had to lock up Higgins and Chase together in concurrent deals, essentially, and they're not going to be staggered. They're taking big cap hits basically this coming season for the next 3-4 years with both of those guys combined. That's a tough situation to manage from a salary cap perspective when you have two guys locked up long term and they're taking big hits. You want to kind of stagger it out, which is what the Eagles did with Devontae Smith and with AJ Brown, which again, smart roster management. They did some funky cap things to make it work in terms of this past season, but an overall cap structure, they've got things balanced in such a way where if Smith's hits really big this year, it doesn't coincide with a huge AJ Brown hit and vice versa. And that's what the Steelers are setting up here as well. And again, it's just good front office work. But there's also another element to it, and it was kind of mentioned in the opening tweet, is while this is a big name deal, obviously, what, $150 million or something to that effect, the reality is in practicality, the Pittsburgh Steelers could get out after 2 seasons, after the 2026 season, for a 2-year, $60 million deal, and then would just take small dead cap money of $6 million for the following 3 seasons based on his prorated signing bonus if for whatever reason it doesn't work out. And I love the flexibility built into the situation. One of the things that can really hurt teams, and the Cleveland Browns are the perfect example of this, is you feel like you need to bring in a star, a big name, and you go out and get it done, and then you lock them up long term with a lot of guaranteed money, and you have no cap flexibility, and then you're just stuck if it doesn't work out. We think Metcalf will work out. He was a good player in Seattle. No reason to think he won't be a good player with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I honestly think he has a chance to be even better with Pittsburgh. But the reality is sometimes these things don't work out for whatever reason. Injuries, just culture fits, whatever. We all know what every team runs into it. The Steelers have set up this contract where it's basically a 2-year, $60 million deal. And after 2 seasons, they can make the decision, all right, do we save cap space and then just eat a little bit of dead money and then move on? Or do we want to keep re-upping it 1 year at a time? Because that's how it's structured after that. Again, this is just what smart teams do. You want to make sure you have ultimate flexibility. You don't want to be tied with these long-term deals with big cap hits with a lot of guaranteed money that you can't get out of. Teams, again, we're talking about not smart teams. Teams like the New Orleans Saints, for the better part of the last 5 years, basically created nothing of those kind of deals and now they're trying to slowly unwind those things. And they've been stuck with Derek Carr, paying him incredible money, and a lot of their other players too that have a little bit underperforming or are now injury prone, and they're paying them huge bucks in terms of cap hit just because of their structure of deals and how they manage the salary cap. You want to avoid that. The Steelers are making a really smart move here. But the other thing to really focus on, and actually Spot Track actually highlighted this, is that the way they structure this contract for DK Metcalf is new in terms of their guaranteed structure. They don't really do this in Pittsburgh. So I think, to me, the sign that I really like, on top of all the good data, is that this seems to be just another change in approach, a change in strategy from the Pittsburgh Steelers front office, which is absolutely critical because this franchise obviously needs to make some changes. Not winning playoff games, not setting themselves up for championship kind of runs. Something certainly needs to change. Obviously, there's criticism of the coaching staff, levied some of that criticism on the players, but I think changing some things in the front office, how they structure deals, how they think about things, could be the key domino to drop to allow them to go out and build a championship team, which, of course, now we're going to get to the point on everyone's mind is what the heck is going on with the quarterback position. I think that's how we're going to wrap this one up. Obviously, this was a DK Metcalf video, DK Metcalf episode, but Mize, since everyone's talking about it, give us your thoughts on the Steelers QB move. I mean, are they going Rodgers? Are they going draft? Are they going someone else, bringing back Russell Wilson? What the heck's going on here?
We've seen the reports recently. If we're talking about what most recently we've seen, we saw Aaron Rodgers had like a 6-hour meeting with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and all intents and purposes, it went well. The deal wasn't done, which makes me wonder. Rodgers is an interesting creature as far as how he picks teams and getting deals done with him. So the fact the deal wasn't done that day, interesting. We'll see what happens. I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. If you ask me right now, truly, I really think they're going to go after a quarterback in the draft. I think we're going to be surprised what Pittsburgh does. It's not something traditionally that we've seen them do very, very often. I think that they have somebody in this draft that they think we've talked about before. A lot of people don't like it for some reason. I like Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe to Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense. I think he's in the range to where if they need to trade up to get him, he's not so far up the draft boards that he would be out of their reach. I really like that. I think that they're going to eye a quarterback in this draft. I really think that's where they're going. You see, they bring Mason Rudolph back in. He's a guy that, if so happen you get a quarterback that you think is the future, they're not ready quite yet. Mason Rudolph's okay. He can do enough to get the job done. I really do like the Pittsburgh Steelers taking a quarterback in this draft.